All right, Indiana Pacers offseason guide is now up on ESPN.com. This is lottery week. We had Portland come out on Monday, the Knicks on Tuesday, and today is the Indiana Pacers. Kind of a unique situation in Indiana because they've always been about this team that's competed, has hung around that 7-8 last year in that play-in type tournament. Started certainly in 2017 with the Paul George trade to Oklahoma City for Domantas Sabonis and Victor Oladipo. They were not willing to kind of hit a full-scale rebuild. Then they go out and sign Thaddeus Young and Bojan Bogdanovic, and they hung around. As I said, they were competitive, a 40-plus win team. They had the Oladipo injury, certainly, that set them back, for a long time, and we never really got to see what this team could look like here. So Indiana goes into the offseason. They made the Tyrese Halliburton trade at the deadline and sent Sabonis to Sacramento. Kevin Pritchard, their head of basketball operations, has basically come out and said that Halliburton is our point guard of the future. The big question is, what does that mean for Malcolm Brogdon? Signed an extension last offseason. He's got 3 years left on his contract at pretty good money, right in that $22-23 million contract. The interesting thing here is, I'm just scrolling down my article, is the body of work with the two players here. And that's what I wanted to find out. On the court today, together, they were outscored 16.3 points per 100 possessions. So limited body of work, but can those two players play together for the long haul, or do the Pacers see Brogdon as that trade asset to move in a future deal here? One of the teams that has cap space, they are one of 4 or 5 teams that has $24-25 million in room. They have about $25 million. So what do you do with cap space? Do you go out and singles and doubles 2 or 3 players and just $8 or $9 million players? Do you go out and you take back a bad contract and continue to build up your draft assets? I don't think they're in a position now like they were in 2017 when they were ready to compete for a roster spot. There's still some heavy lifting here to do. When you look at the cap space, there's certainly different ways. I said you can take back a contract. You can go out and use it in free agency. You could also elect to stay over the cap and use your trade exceptions and your full mid-level. Here's one thing that's interesting. Myles Turner. We haven't seen Myles Turner since January. Was shut down with a stress reaction in his foot. Basically was deemed as probably one of these players that could be moved with Sabonis, which one was going to stay. But Turner's about to enter the last year of his contract. He is extension eligible, but he is also renegotiation eligible. And what that means is that we haven't seen a player that's renegotiation eligible since 2017, where Robert Covington signed this contract. And what that does is the team, in this case the Pacers, can take cap space. So you can basically add that on to Turner's $18 million contract and give him a nice little boost this year. It doesn't have to be with the extension in that first year. So I'll give you an example, and we have this in the article. And as I always say, we're not going to do books on tape here, which I always laugh about when I say it. So if you do a Turner extension, let's say you want to take Turner renegotiation and extension, you want to take $10 million of cap space and leave yourself with about $15 million. You can bump his salary up from 18 to 28. But here's the beauty. The CBA allows you to decrease the first year in that extension 40%. So you can go 28 million and then drop it down to 16.8 and then kind of bring it back up. It's certainly a unique way to do it. Not sure you want to, knowing that he's coming off this foot injury, and if you want to see him out on the court, you're able to do that throughout the year, but you're basically going to have to be in a holding pattern as far as how you use your cap space. As I mentioned, he's also extension eligible for 4 years, $96.8 million, and that would start in 2023-24. 21.6 would be in the first year. It can go up all the way up to $26.8 million. So there's certainly different ways that you can use the cap space. You can use it for Myles Turner in a renegotiation. You can extend them. That does not impact cap space. You can go out and use, sign 2 or 3 players to these $10 million deals. You can take back a bad contract, or you can stay over the cap. Maybe you bring back TJ Warren on a 1 or 2 year deal. You preserve your trade exceptions, which you have 3. You have your mid-level exception, which is worth $10.3 million. Plenty of different options that you have in Indiana. You also have a lottery pick, right? We thought it was going to be 2 picks because of Cleveland. Cleveland, if the Cavaliers had made the playoffs, you were going to get probably the 16th or 17th pick. Now you only have 1 first going into this year. Right now it's the 5th pick. Could jump up there. What direction do you go with in the draft? That's going to be an interesting decision because the Pacers are not known to drafting this high. Paul George is the last player that was selected this high. My former Red Fox, see it right there, Red Fox alumnus Rick Smits was another guy that was picked in the top 3 here. So Indiana is not, this is kind of a unique situation for the Pacers with cap space, kind of in a little bit of a reboot. And also drafting in the top 5 in the lottery here. So they've got the resources to kind of do a quick turnaround here. It's just going to be a matter of as far as is there patience here? Because I said this is a little bit of uncharted territory. But you've got Halliburton as your point guard. You've got Chris Duarte, who you drafted last year. Buddy Hield is another name. What does Hield and Brogdon get you? Certainly the name Russell Westbrook has been floated around. Hey, does it make sense to take back Westbrook and you can get maybe 2 seconds or one, an unprotected 2027 and do a buyout with Westbrook and really kind of hit the full scale rebuild? Certainly something to entertain here, but plenty of options for Indiana. As I always say, the state of their roster is fluid. It is a rebuild. It's not a retool because I look at where they are. Turner is the big question mark as far as what he's going to be able to give you if he's healthy. Certainly you've got a keeper in Halliburton, and then it's kind of just figuring out what else do you need.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.